All right, here we go. Good evening. This is the last shiur here before Rosh Hashana. Next week, Yom Hashem. Maybe we'll have it in the ranch. You guys can zoom in. Yep, you can zoom in. Zoom. Next week. I'm going to be in one. You'll be with me. You'll be zooming right in a minute. There you go. I would assume so, yeah. It's, yeah, it's straight up the meridian. It's not, it's not east or west. It's just north. So time-wise, it's the same time. Okay, so we are learning Torah Samech, which is Torah 60, the Chalek Aleph. So we have explained, B'ezrat Hashem, that there are something Rabbeinu calls Shvilei HaTorah, the paths of Torah. Those paths afford an immense comprehension, immense absorption in Torah Chafalov. Rabbeinu says this. It's called it a seichel, which is Chinas Kedem, which is infinite. Rabbeinu says in Torah Chafalov that there are two types of mental aptitudes. One of them is called Kedem, and one of them is called Ochar. So Ochar means backwards, which is that's the regular Western way of looking at things and learning things, in which everything that you know now is the result of what you built before. The preamblums, the akdomas. 2 + 2 is 4, 4 + 4 is 8, and then when you want to shrink the process of plus, you say you multiply, and so forth and so on. But kedem, which literally means forward, but kedem is a word that can mean both forwards and both, ancient, both kedem, before. Both forwards and kedem, which means it's a seichel that always exists. It doesn't depend on building towards it. It's a seichel that always existed. There's a process where Rabbeinu there says that how do you get that seichel? It says once you get that seichel, once you have the faculties to contain that seichel, it just flows without any preamblums. Just and the way to perceive it, Rabbeinu says over there, is working on your 7 candles with your ears, your eyes, nostrils, and your mouth. The 7 candles of the candelabra. That when you control them, Rabbeinu says there, it basically switches your brain from being an Ochar kind of brain into a Kedem kind of brain. You receive things beyond the regular learning process of things, which is a buildup. But you perceive things according to your capability to So you see what the faculties, you build the faculties, and it's actually a process of subtraction. You don't look at what you're not supposed to look. You don't say what you're not supposed to say. You don't believe what it is you're supposed not to believe, and you do believe what it is you're supposed to. It says you have your shemayim, which means you stay away from yiras chesed, and so forth and so on. In other words, like, the more you pair off the outside, the chitzonius, you gain an inner world which enables you to have a das where you can't even explain. How do you know it? And the example that we gave from it is that you know that you're you. How do you know you're you? I don't know. I don't know. But you definitely know it. Yeah. So it's a knowing which is elemental. It's not a knowing that depends on learning. The same thing is the connection between a man and his wife. It's also called a knowing. But nevertheless, ask anybody who's married if he knows his wife. I know, I know things about her. But the point is that the symbiosis between a man and a wife is an elemental knowledge in which they're both one. At the same time, they are distinct personalities. They remain separate. They're combined, they're connected. At the same time, they're separate, and the separateness allows them to learn how to get along with one another better, and so forth and so on, to keep on growing, so forth and so on. So it's a different kind of knowing, like, that they teach in universities. So there is in the Torah, there are paths, there are paths of perceiving Torah, which is so immense that it requires an extreme fortune. When you're talking about Torah Shabbat Moshe Rabbeinu, Ravashi, Rebbe, Yehuda Anasi, those that the entire Torah Shebachtav, Torah Shabbat passed through them, they were all very wealthy people. All the Nevi'im, all the prophets. They were all very, very wealthy people, because you needed, in order to have an overview, not just, a specialty, you know how to do this, or you know how to do that, but the entire Torah flows that kind of scope of knowing, of that requires, all the wealth in the world. Now, Beruchnius, Benister, the wealth doesn't have to show itself, in money in the bank. It's already different ashiras, even though by them it's also something which requires to have ashiras. Rabbeinu, before he passed away, he owned a whole number of stores in I think in Mezhibos. He owned them, and it's not what Rabbeinu has to do with stores and Mezhibos. What's it got to do with them? But he needed it in order to have this. But whatever it is, Rabbeinu needed. I'm not coming here to explain it. Whatever it is, but even Rabbeinu, this was so. Rabbeinu explained that where do you get this money? So the money is the result of the process of learning Torah, the process of forming the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu. The Torah itself is the luchos, and the luchos themselves are made of diamonds, And he chiseled the luchos from that diamond, right? And where the Moshe Rabbeinu, and because the Moshe Rabbeinu, the psoilus, the debris, the residue, whatever it is, the chaff that flies off, will belong to you. So Chazal said this is the source of the wealth of Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu says it's always like that. When you're learning about a principle, a Torah principle, in order to understand it, you have to go through various akdomas, various preamblums to explain the process. Like when you're learning Baba Kama, you learn, okay, somebody stole an animal, or somebody stole a coin from his friend, okay? And the coin broke. Okay? So it's no longer, you can't purchase with it anymore. So comes the question, okay, now they found out what it is, that he stole it. When he gives it back, is he supposed to give it back, a new one, or what it was worth before? Or you can take the broken penny, or the penny that is no longer valid in the market, and give it to his friend. Listen, that's a penny I took from you. That's your penny. Here you go. It's not worth anything anymore. So in order to understand what the halacha is, you have to understand the various preamblums before it. Are you looking at the coin as what is called in Chasrivi as a fruit, as an object that has value, or are you looking at it as money? In itself, it's a value. Besides value, it doesn't have anything else. So, what's the difference? The difference is that, let's say that here the coin in Israel is shekel. Okay. In Japan, it's yen. Okay. So yens are not considered money in Israel. In other words, it's not money that you use on an everyday basis. So you can borrow yen from somebody, but it's like you are borrowing from him, objects, fruits or whatever it is. So there's a big difference with Lichus Ribis. When you borrow yen from somebody, can you give yen back and so forth? So the difference between what are called pera, fruit, and tiva, which is a matbeya, which is a coin, in order to understand what is the difference halachas in Bava Kama, if you took a coin and it's no longer valid, or the coins are, you need to understand these. So when you go into learning what's the deen when somebody steals a coin from a friend and something happens to it, either it's no longer valid, whatever it is, what would Allah is? You have to understand a preamblum of what are the different kind of ways of looking at the coin. Either as property, like when it's a foreign currency. Okay, it's not. It's a matbea yotzes. It's a spendable. It's not something you can do business with, or it's considered money. For the tachlis of learning the halachas and Bava Kama, you have to understand these preamblums. Okay. But that's not the goal. When you're learning Baba Kama, that is not the goal. In Chasrivis, even in Chasrivis, you need to know how to deal with that. You need to know, you have to have this basic knowledge before. These preamblums is called psoilus, because that's not what the main thing you wanted to learn. You need to know about it before you learn, because otherwise you can't learn the mechuvah. But this is not the main thing. Once you get to the main thing, you already know these basics. You don't deal with them anymore. You're not getting. So this is the psoilus. That's like the same way that Kadosh Baruch Hu chiseled the diamond luchos, that the psoilus, the residue, the chaff, was a source of wealth for Moshe Rabbeinu. The same way, when the entire Torah goes through him, the process of learning everything that needs to be learned in order to be able, to transmit the whole river of Torah through him, that's the source of the wealth for that particular person. He's not into building Tesla cars and rockets to the Mars. This is not what it's about.
How come they say eat pasta bread on the floor and you get to learn the Torah like?
Oh, because the point is that this is the way you're supposed to learn Torah. But if somebody, like we spoke at great length about the Sachar, right? The Sachar was the wealthiest of all the Shvatim, and they sat in Koil learned every day. It hasn't. That's not why Sachar sat and learned. Because he learned, because he was the source of Torah for the entire Israel. So Mimela, he was rich. Zvulun took care of everything. He took care of business and everything else. But when a person goes to learn Torah, it cannot be connected to. But nevertheless, even lechem tzar, sleep on the floor. But you have to have food. So Rabbeinu said before. He says even for Pashat Torah, you learn Torah on the most elemental basis. You need to have food. You need to live somewhere.
They don't say you have great wealth.
But you're not doing. What I'm trying to explain is that that's what the Rebbe said. Even you learn Pashto Torah, the way that you learn Torah it's fine. It doesn't. Money is not your object. But when you are learning, and we'll explain, how the wealth, happens in this siman. Nevertheless, that's not where you're going to learn. You're going to learn Torah. You're not going to learn Torah not to be rich. Forget, when you're learning Torah on such a level, wealth accumulates because it's necessary for you to learn Torah. For the kind of Torah that you learn, that is all-encompassing, encompasses the entire Torah, you need all the wealth in the world. Shlomo HaMelech was the wealthiest man in the world. Why? Because all the Chochmas of Torah was in him. He needed that. I mean, it's interesting that in Melachim, where the if you can give me a cup with seltzer, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. In Sefer Melachim, when it talks about Shlomo HaMelech, it says first about Shlomo HaMelech's wealth, and it says like what was regular dinner or lunch by Shlomo HaMelech. I don't know, thousands of sheep and oxen and every single day. And only after, and then it says that money didn't mean anything, and whatever it says everything was made with gold because the time of Shlomo HaMelech, silver meant nothing. It was thrown around. Was thrown around Yerushalayim like stones, like pebbles. And then it says about Chochmah Shlomo that Chochmah Shlomo was the greater of everybody. Before and after, and he knew the language of the trees and the animals and everything else. He needed the wealth of Shlomo HaMelech for Chochmah Shlomo HaMelech. The idea is not to be rich. Back when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when Shlomo HaMelech was 12 years old when he became king. David HaMelech was old. and his son, Adoniyahu ben Chagit, declared himself king. He called Yoav, Tzaratzava, and Tzadok HaKohen, and made a whole feast, called everybody except Nasan Hanavi and Shlomo, the son of Elisheva. And he called himself, he's the new king. David HaMelech was old. He was chilled because of the last thing before that, he saw the Malach. There was a plague that hit Am Yisrael. And David HaMelech saw the Malach HaMashkes that came to smite Shem Menachem. And because he saw the Malach, he became chilled. He shriveled, basically. He was 70 years old, which is basically, it's not old, Well, 70 is the new 50, right? Like, I don't know. Whatever they call it. Oh, okay. But they said that he couldn't get warm with clothing anymore. It was it was basically almost, so there was just one woman that served him, and that's it. And so Elisheva came to him. Nasan Hanavi came to Elisheva. He told him, listen, did you know that Adoniyahu, he declared himself king? And though the Melech doesn't know about it. He didn't invite me, didn't invite, and David HaMelech swore to Elisheva that her son, Shlomo, will be the next king. Batsheva. So he told her, go to David HaMelech and tell him, before it's too late. So she came, she told us, so David HaMelech decided, okay, listen, I'm not gonna risk things getting out of hand, all kinds of, inheritance wars and whatever it is. I'm not gonna let it go that way. What he did, he told Batsheva, I swore to you that your son Shlomo will be the king of Israel. And I'm going to do it today. And he ordered Nasan Hanavi, take Shlomo, and take it to the Gihon stream. Take Shemen HaMishcha, from the Mishkan, and anoint him for the new king. Ride him on the mule, on my mule. Nobody's allowed to ride the mule or the horse of the king. That's forbidden. Not ride his mule, not marry his women, his wives. Because you put him on my mule, you take it to the Gihon and you anoint him, and then you blow with the shofars that Shlomo is a melech, and this is what they did. In other words, he made Shlomo melech, while he was still alive. So there's no ifs and so on. He meant this or he meant that. No fakers, no doubts. Everything was crystal clear. How old was Shlomo Melech at that time? And so he was 12. Now that's not very old, is it? So Hashem comes to Shlomo Melech in a dream and asks him, what do you want? What do you want from me, and I should grant it for you? So Shlomo Melech said, look, I'm just a kid. I'm a child. I'm a young child. And your Am Yisrael is numberless. And they need somebody to judge them, somebody to administer justice to them. If you can grant me the chokhmah to do mishpat, that's what I want. Well, Kadosh Baruch Hu was very impressed by that. was very impressed by that. 12-year-old kid says, that's what I want. But Baruch Hu said, you could have asked for longevity. You could have asked for wealth. You could have asked, that I should put enemies, all your enemies in your hand. You could have asked for anything. And the only thing that you wanted is to have the wisdom, to judge Am Yisrael justly. He says, I'm going to grant you a chachma that was never had by any human being before you or after you. Nobody will ever have this kind of chachma. And all those things that you didn't ask for, I'm going to give it to you anyway. Regarding your offsprings being, kings after you, this already made a pact with David and Melech. If they're going to follow the Torah, the Melucha will continue, will always remain, best of it. If they don't measure up, things are not going to be so PG. Oh, I think there were 22 kings, I think, altogether. 7 were tzaddikim. The others, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like Satmar Rebbe used to say about the kosher delis in America. They have delis in the street. They said kosher. They have so he says that the kashrus of these delis, you can see by the neon light, come on and off. It says it's sometimes on, sometimes kosher, sometimes not. It's like so. These malachim, how kosher they were, like those kosher delis. Sometimes on, sometimes off, sometimes yes, sometimes no. So, and all these ashiras was necessary for Shlomo HaMelech because he was the viceroy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. He says, "Vayeshev Shlomo al kisei Hashem shloishim shana." He sat on the throne of Hashem for 30 years. It doesn't say it says on the throne of Israel, the throne of Hashem. What it means is that in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, if you want to be subjected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to subject yourself to Shlomo HaMelech. There's no other way. And Seif Bes says, to come to this kind of wealth, it comes through a process. This is a spiritual structure, persona, called Partzuf. It's called Atik Yomin. This is Sfiras HaKesa. Shehu P'chinas Arichus Yomim. It embodies longevity. Atik, something is ancient. We said that Atik, the Keser, represents beyond time. It encompasses all the time in the world. You don't have bigger longevity than that, than all the time in the world. The P'chinas of an elder. You need longevity. We'll soon see here what Rabbeinu means with longevity. It doesn't mean like, there's somebody in Uzbekistan is 124 years old. That's not what Rabbeinu is talking about. The P'chinas Arichas is because you need Arichas Yomim in order to receive into it the wealth for this hisbaininus, for this gazing, for this comprehension. Arichas Yomim. Okay, now we're talking about what kind of longevity are we talking about? What kind of long days? We're talking about what is the long days that we're talking about? So Rabbeinu says, you have to lengthen and make bigger your days every day. What does it mean? Ki kol yom v'yom, every single day. The way it starts by every single person. Obviously, in the beginning, it's very narrow. In the beginning of the day, it's very difficult to do whatever avodah you need to do this day. Avodah Hashem. You want me to move? You mean like move? You mean? It says kegoli spalal v'lilmod v'chayotze, like learning and daven, these kind of things. Can I have a little more of that seltzer, please? That's why the day in the very beginning is narrow. It's like you don't have the bandwidth to get into, to learn, to daven. I remember I had a chavrusa that says, I asked him, do you daven? Do you like make his whatever? So he says, who has time for that? We have to daven 3 times a day. We have to learn Torah all day. Who has time to daven? You have to go through the process of who has time to actually, because it's difficult. You sit down before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and usually within 15 to 20 seconds, unless you're really having a bad day, but like 15 to 20 seconds, you already finished everything that you have to say. I should feel good. This one should feel good. This should get bench with this and help with this, with this, with this, with this, with this, with this, with this. Okay. How long time? I'm supposed to be it for an hour. 30 seconds, Oh man, I haven't even started, man. That means that the day is narrow. Yom Kotzer. Let's go Kotzer Yomim. Short of days. It's hard. So then it says, you have to begin little by little. Another step, and another step, and another step, and another step. And then, you expand, you get more bandwidth, you can do more. And the Rabbi says, follow the tzarich ha'odom lirois v'lahagdil u'lharif. A person has to see, to pay attention, to enlarge and make wider and make longer every single hour that comes afterwards. Make it bigger, make it wider. In what? In additional kedusha. More kedusha, and more kedusha, and more kedusha. Same thing. Okay, you finished the day. You did what you need to do. What about the next day? Same thing the next day. You should advance and expand more and more additional kedusha. And it says it is a constant process throughout one's life. His days should become wider and wider with additional kedusha every day. That's the reason why a person needs to persevere, to really persevere. Every single day. This is called Arichas Yamim. That's what Rabbeinu calls Arichas Yamim. You want the wealth, the wealth that leads to the kind of histakhlus, of his beinunus. It starts from the process of enlarging every single hour of your life. It's a very, very, very important nakuda. That's the very basic, like, what is my goal in life? What should I accomplish? Like, what is my, what is my challenge? What should I, maybe I need somebody to give me an eitzah or whatever. But the truth of the matter, it's not complicated. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu already gives you your assignments on a daily basis. And the assignments come in form of lack of bandwidth. Bandwidth. Like the internet, if there's not bandwidth, you can't get a lot. You're just like you're narrow-minded, just like you have no patience for anything. So we call it, no bandwidth. That the band is narrow, it's not one. Isn't it just the very thing that we don't want, isn't it? The challenge is that you won't feel like doing it. That's your challenge. Your challenge is not to scale the Everest or to become the wealthiest person on earth. My wife just told me that there's a person that has surpassed Elon Musk as the richest man on earth. The guy Kanahara is I don't know, in his 80s, whatever it is, and he has more money than you're. And I said, what is he going to do with this money? No. There's a Ellison. He owns something called Oracle. I don't know even what Oracle is, but it's something with computers, right? High tech, whatever. Anyhow, so the guy is so wealthy. Not only that he has nothing to do with it, at his age, Kanan Horror, he doesn't even have the illusion that he has anything to do with it. If a person in his 40s, 50s, 30s, you're talking, how am I in the world? I can be the king of the world. It's only as the years go by, you realize, they say in America, it's good enough to crack nuts. What are you going to do with it? I mean, it's useless. I used to say about old things don't work anymore. Says, you want to buy this? Was it good? It's good to crack nuts with it. What are you going to do all this wealth? But wealth of B'Kedusha, the entire Torah goes through you. So what's your challenge? Your challenge is to go through, I don't feel like it. The one thing you don't want. The thing you don't want. That's it. Here we are. Rosh Hashana is coming. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll be zeichet to be Rabbeinu in Mitzvah Hashem. Rosh Hashanah is very clear what it is we need to do. We're just making a Kadosh Baruch Hu Melech. That's the whole thing. But what does it mean besides Rosh Hashanah to call out wherever it is? Zichrona, Shefes, Malchus, the whole, all the tefillas and everything else. But lemaisa, how do a person makes a Kadosh Baruch Hu Melech? A Melech is, they say that about Kriyat Shema. The Gemara says, why does the parsha of Shema Yisrael comes before Vayayim Shema? Vayayim Shema is the second parsha. So the Gemara says, Shema Yisrael. First of all, a person needs to accept upon himself the yoke of Malchus Shemayim, accepting HaKadosh Baruch Hu as king, as your monarch. Vayayim Shamoa, you should mekabel yourself the yoke of mitzvahs. So when you look at it, it says like, whoa, time out, just a second. Aren't the two one and the same? If you accept the Kadosh Baruch Hu is your monarch, is your king, doesn't that mean automatically that you need to do what he says? So what's left to accept in Vayayim Shemaya? That you haven't accepted already in Shema Yisrael. You accepted everything already. The answer is B'derech. Shema Yisrael is you believe that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is Melech. He is the king. And whatever he says, you need to do. People need to do, he's the king. Vayayim Shamoa is emunah in yourself. Meaning that what the Kadosh Baruch Hu says that needs to be done, he's talking about you. You're the one. Not Donald Trump. Definitely not King Charles. And definitely not, what's his name, Macron from France. He's talking about you. That's the Kabbalah of mitzvahs. I'm the one who's supposed to carry the yoke, not them. To believe in the Kadosh Baruch Hu is easy. Anybody that has a shtickle seichel, understand this world did not create itself. It's nonsense. But that it means me, I'm the one who's supposed to do it. That takes a whole different kind of Kabbalah. How do you do it? You overcome that I don't feel like it. Again and again and again and again. And what you do is you get into it. And once you get into it, it becomes easier. So we learned before, Torah Dalet, Chelik Beis, that you give tzedakah paterach tiftach, it opens up the gates for everything. You don't feel like it, you don't really want it. You give tzedakah. I said all the time, you give tzedakah. When it says tzedakah always works. I didn't give a penny. Whatever it is, you can't just give and give and give and give. When it says you have to break your innate stinginess, your own cruelty, and give. When it says tzedakah, it's always good. Even if, you're a generous person, you give tzedakah with others, wonderful. It says the main avoid of tzedakah is when you break your innate stinginess. And you give. Okay, I want to give to this one. And then there's another guy who comes to shul, I don't feel like giving to him. I mean, everybody has somebody who likes to give, somebody who doesn't like to give. It feels like, whatever it is that you feel that your own selfishness, stinginess, whatever, rears its head, that's where the avodas tzedakah start. Tzedakah is always, even when you feel like giving, it's also tzedakah, 100%. But when you don't feel like doing it, when you feel, what's going to be with me? I'm going to give all this money for tzedakah. Maybe you don't say, but maybe you do. That starts up as tzedakah. That opens up. The entire Likutey Moharan is full with these eitzes on what? How to open up, how to get over, I don't feel like it. And there's always a pre-step, a achona. Like tzedakah is one thing. It enables things. Second thing is to daven for it. But I don't feel like davening. I understand what's going on. Okay, I'm saying that. But what's going to bring you? Because once you open the door, once you have, more leg room, more breathing room, you started already. You overcame the scholak or aschalas kashes. All the beginnings are difficult, and so forth and so on. Afterwards it gets easier. You know, what gets tougher is to restart the process all over again. This is already, you have to be a gibor. Like Rabbeinu was started all the time, be mischadish every single breath. In other words, that I don't feel like it every. Rabbeinu says I floundered, I fell 1,000 times a day. You know what it means to fail 1,000 times a day? It means that like your head is on the table, okay? And somebody puts his head on the top of your head. And you try to lift the head up and bring it down. 1,000 times a day. You have to be an unbelievable gibor to start all over again, like it was in the morning. We didn't feel like for us. Okay, I didn't feel bichlal, but once I got into it, it got a little bit easier, whatever that was. But to start fresh all the time, again, means you're pathfinding, you're opening up all the time. The difference between the tzaddikim and us is that rate of restart. Are you okay? You started, Baruch Hashem, and now okay, let me surf a little bit. It's like okay, no, I feel like doing it, enjoying it, I'm davening, I'm learning. It's geschmack. Okay. To restart again, you make tshuva. You make tshuva. Okay, so how many times we make tshuva in our lives? I'm saying like from darkness to light, from being totally not from to being religious. I mean, it's like once in a lifetime, twice in a lifetime, because there are all kinds of challenges that go through life that you have to renew your vows. You have to start all over again. Every once in a while, 1,000 times a day. The difference between the tzaddikim and us is the refresh rate. Like they have like on telephones, like smartphones, what the refresh rate is. Computers, I don't know. Start again. When it says that, why is it called longevity? Because longevity is really not about how many years a person lives. Longevity is about now. A person is forever young. In America, being young means a mask. They have plastic surgeries and they have facelifts and Botox and whatever it is that they have. The idea is that somebody will be, I don't know, whatever age it is, and they will look like in the 30s or 40s, whatever it is. I don't know, whatever. Anti-aging. But the whole idea is it's a mask. That's what it is. It's an older person who's wearing a mask of somebody young. He looks young, looks wonderful. Take a look at him. It looks wonderful. Doesn't look an age over 50 or 40 or 30. I don't know, whatever it is. And he's already 100 and I don't know what. Yeah. Yeah. 21 plus VAT, very other tax. Everything goes up today. But the real arichos yomim is when you realize that where you are right now in your life, it doesn't matter which age it is, you have your challenges that confront you. Things that used to hack your chinik and drive you mad don't count anymore. They don't bother you anymore. There are different things that that you have to get over. One of the things you have to get over is a tendency to whine.
Wine?
Yeah. And also the tendency to whine about whining. Yeah.
Want to say kvetch?
You can call it kvetch, kvetching about kvetching. The idea is that your mission is now. Rabbeinu calls it a new beginning. You have to begin every time, every day, every hour, every moment. That depends on, on your koyches hanefesh, on how resolute you are. When you take a look at the world and you see in any field the difference between somebody who is a gazillionaire and somebody who is a billionaire and somebody who is a millionaire and somebody who is well off and somebody just has parnasa or somebody that doesn't even have parnasa. What's the difference between each and every one of them? It's how resolute they are. How resolute they are. Yeah. The only difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is the billionaire is that resolute, as opposed to a millionaire is only that resolute. Somebody as well is less resolute. It says, from my flesh I can see the divine. From this world you can learn what it takes into Avodas Hashem. It's all about how resolute you are. Reb Nosson says, that when in one of his Moharan, they said that he spoke about the heart of Avram Avinu. First of all, he says, why was Moshe Rabbeinu? So he said, because Moshe Rabbeinu had that much chaskas. And Moshe Rabbeinu level of his chaskas, of resoluteness, of renewal, starting all over again, of doing that which you don't want to do. He says, why was Rabbeinu? Because the person said, he had that level of his chaskas, of resoluteness. So he says, why am I just what am I? Because I have that level of his chaskas. Each and every one of us has his own level of his chaskas. And Russell spoke about the heart of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu for the entire world, basically. So he spoke about Avram Avinu's hearts. So his heart. So one of the Talmidim says, where does one take the heart of Avram Avinu? So Nosson said, you have the same heart. Your problem is you don't heart it up. You don't heart it. You don't incite it. You don't keep on mixing. You don't mix. Awaken it. Activating it. It's just it's okay, fine. It says you have the same heart as Avram Avinu. You do everything, but it all depends. So here you get another secret. How do I get to get into the process of doing things that I don't feel like doing, which is the secret of longevity. First of all, is don't be caught up in the past or caught up in the future. The past, you get to a certain stage, the more you work, and so you get to a certain stage, as you're going along, you say, oh, can't believe what I went in my parents' house, and my father did this, my mother did this, and they didn't understand me, they were this, and that, and this, and that. And then I went to school, and everybody that was supposed to be supporting me, they were, disillusioned me, and this and that, and then I met this and that, this and that. I can't believe how I went like a pinball on crack. My whole life. At this stage, we take a look backwards. You see that every single instant of your life, everything that you went through, all the compliments and all the insults, all the successes and all disappointments, the things you like and the things that you remember in horror, each and every one was absolutely essential to make you who you are right now, which is who you need to be to deal with what's in front of you. That's it. There's nothing else. Nothing else matters. It takes time because when you're younger, you figure, listen, things can't be that bad. For sure, there's a way to fix it. For sure, I can say to my wife what I really think about her without having the consequences. For sure. I mean, she started it. She's the one. She's the one. She told me about me that I'm this and this and this and this and that. I just answered, just defended myself. Right. The famous last words, right? The secret of good marriage is to get over the thing you don't feel like. I don't feel like doing that. Okay. That's what you should do. My wife puts me down. Puts me down. And she's wrong too. Maybe. To keep quiet. I don't feel that's longevity. Get up in the morning to go to shul. That's longevity. I don't feel like doing it. That's the fountain of youth. Overcoming what you don't feel like doing.
Same when I don't feel like it.
Yeah, apathy. There is even like to a greater degree. They just define something which is called PDA. You know what PDA stands for? It's pathological demand avoidance. Demand avoidance. Change your socks. I don't different. Brush your teeth. Tomorrow. Take down the garbage. Me? Yeah. So the various the, the various degrees of don't feel like it. And let me tell you a secret. The more you don't feel like it, the worse your quote unquote disease is, the more pathologically the disease is, the easier your job is. Because you just need to do small things because you don't even want to do them. For somebody it's normal, the small things, obviously, but if it's pathological, no, I cannot do this. Okay, so you just do a little bit, you're done. What do you say? That's longevity. That's it. One of the things that you can start, with tefillah, with learning, with whatever it is when you go to daven, wherever you are, whatever it is that you do, the first machshava zara that you have about davening is, when am I finishing davening already? That's the first machshava zara. So the first achana, the first weapon to apply against it, I don't feel like it, is you say, okay, I'm going to davening shachris for the next hour. We came to shul 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever it is. You're not saying that the next hour is, in the calendar. There's an X on it. There's nothing else good. The phone is off. Everything is off. I'm into the davening for the next hour. When you get used to the idea that the next hour is devoted to davening, you can look at the words to see what the words mean for the first time in 50 years. See what the words are. Wow. גדול השם לכו, קרא השם לכל קורא לכו, שיקרו באמת. It's close to all that call. Wow. Because when you don't allow yourself, you don't put aside the time, you want to get it over with. It's just like, okay, the same davening can take an hour, can take 30 minutes, can take 20 minutes. It's not the same davening, but, getting over it, you can do it. You can run, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. The first trick, in order to open up the bandwidth for davening, is set aside the time. That's the time that I'm putting aside for davening. I'm not doing anything else. Even if I finished already, I'm not doing anything. I am in davening for the next hour. That's it. I'm not going to take off my tefillin. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here for an hour. Once you are able to convince yourself to put aside that amount, whichever amount of time that you decide, it's easier to move on. You're not going anywhere anyhow, right? You're an hour to kill. You see, those are tricks, right? Yeah. That's what I think Shlomo Melech says, "V'tachbu lo yistaseh milchama." Use tricks to wage war. This is war. This is the ultimate war. This is the only war that's worth fighting. Yeah, you got to use tricks. That's why we sit together. That's why we learn. So each one tells out, something, I found a trick. I can do this. You can do that. This helps. This, that. Sometimes when you don't feel like saying anything, you don't even want to get up out of bed. Okay, you can think it. I don't even want to think it because I don't think it because you're going to get me out of bed. So you can be quiet and just shvag still. That's also crying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Is the tefillah of someone who davens next the same value as someone who sees the davens as Chatzot Hayom? Is there like more?
Reb Nosson speaks very fervently about that. And the only one of Talmidei Baal Shem that davened later was a Mechel Lotchov. And the Pinchas Kolitzer was very, very, very much against it. He said that because he's Mechel Lotchov said he davened later because he wanted to be mal all the tefillahs of all the people that davened before him. So Pinchas Kolitzer told him the kavana is good, but the maisa is not. And he told him, don't elevate my tefillah, okay? Do me a favor. He also speaks about it, in Ger, they have a vote. It says, it says the husband got married, your wife, whatever it is, that he comes home from shul and the breakfast is not there yet. And he's hungry. He doesn't know what's going on. This and that. It's in the process, in the works. And it takes half an hour, it takes an hour. And he's very hungry. And finally, he comes and he says, what a breakfast. freshly baked rolls, half a pineapple, a rich, I don't know, whatever it is, omelette with, whatever. Ah, okay, that was worth waiting for. Sometime later, he comes there, and it takes an hour, and it's just a sandwich with a cup of coffee. So he said, that kind of breakfast, I want you to give me when I come immediately, when I come home. I gotta prepare a whole shindig, a whole, whatever it is, take an hour, fine. But for a sandwich and a coffee, give it to me early. When I come back, immediately put it on the table. I'm not telling you, make me this kind of, a king's feast. I'm not saying that. Sandwich and coffee is fine. But, don't take an hour. So in Ger, they say that the Hasidim Rishonim, even though Reb Nosson said they were wrong, the Pechas said that they're wrong, the Rebbe said that they're wrong, Shulchan Aruch said that they're wrong. But nevertheless, the kavana was to prepare a sumptuous meal, a tefillah. But so the Ger Rebbe said, you know what, for the kind of davening that we are davening, do it early in the morning, it's one tefillah. Don't wait until 12 o'clock at noon. Chatzai Sayom. Now, anybody that all the great people that do whatever it is they do, I'm in no position, to pass judgment on any of them. But you do what you can. Sometimes you can't daven early for whatever reason. Ochik, wake up, on time to say Kriyat Shema Bazman. Then go back to sleep if you need to. All right? You can't be in everybody's shoes, Everybody has their own different. So whatever it is, always a personal dealing. The challenge is before you. That is longevity. That is forever young. Forever young means constant, fresh relevancy. The problem with getting old, which this world tries to fight with any means possible, is that after they pass a certain age, I don't know, 30s, 40s, whatever each one, wherever it is, they sort of like fade into irrelevancy. They become transparent. People look straight through them. There's nothing but to gain from you anymore. You're nobody. You're irrelevant, not only for others, but for yourself as well. I used to be young. I used to be handsome. I used to be strong. I used to be this. I used to be that. Look at me. That means getting old. Longevity means that you are right now where you're supposed to be. You need to do what you need to be. It's not much fun, to do what you need to do when you're 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 as compared to being 12 or 20 or 30 or whatever. But that's what you need to deal with. That's your avodah. The avodah is right now. Enlarge it. And the enlarging always starts with doing what you don't feel like doing. How I wish it wasn't so, and I can tell you it isn't so. Alas, it is. Bezat Hashem, we should all be zoichen to start every day, possible every hour, possible every minute, each one according to what it can do, to start again, overcoming that which we don't feel like doing in Kedusha, adding another thing, learning a little more, looking at the words of davening and just another step, another step, another step. Bezat Hashem, Rabbi Meir Shechter said, everybody wants to have a good life. The secret of having a good life is having a good present. Make your present good. It'll accumulate to a good life. Hashem will help us, B'rat Hashem, Yizrach, B'rat Hashem, to tzivach simitoivu, nagid giben shtio. Hashem will Yizrach, B'rat Hashem, to coronate Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rosh Hashana, B'rat Hashem, with Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Now, what if you can't go to Uman? If you want to go to Uman, when you can't go to Uman, you're in Uman. If you don't want to go to Uman and you don't go to Uman, you're not in Uman. But if you want to go to Uman, but you can't, so no matter where you are, you're in Uman. Like when you go to the Tzion, it's a big to-do to get to the Tzion, right? Rosh Hashanah, you have a ring or I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people. You can't get through. So what does it mean? So if you're standing like, I don't know, 100 feet from the Tzion, you're not by the Tzion. So if you want to go to Uman, but you can't, physically, whatever reason it is, it's like you're standing by there. There are a million people between you and the Tzion. Still by the Tzion, it's no problem. Shem Yazor, Ksivach, Simatoivo, and Agid Geben Shiur to everybody in Kol Yisrael. He's both to give us Yeshuas for the Chomas. And as this year, this is Shiur to Kol Yisrael. Ksivach, Simatoivo, and Geben Shiur.
Next 2 weeks, we live in